The troop proves that isolation doesn't just make you afraid, makes you hungry for the wrong things. Tonight, we're going somewhere that eats people one bite at a time from the inside. They called it Gravel's Hollow, a dead amusement park island, an hour off the coast, trusted rides, broken prize booths, and a rumor that won't die. Locals say there's a maintenance bunker underneath the boardwalk, built when the park was modern, sealed when the park wasn't. And in that bunker, there's a sound, not a siren, not a warning. A whistle, soft as a breath through a keyhole that makes your stomach turn on you. This is a horror story about 5 people who didn't believe in warnings. It's creepy, it's scary, and it's the kind of tale you'll want to pause in the middle just to check if your fridge light is still on. Because if the troop taught us anything, it's this: when the world cuts you off, something else cuts in. Listen closely. You hear a faint, thin note under my voice. Don't worry. Everyone hears it the first time. That's how the hollow says hello. Stay until the end, because the last thing it asks for is always the first thing you'd never give. Welcome to the hunger in the hollow. They met on the mainland pier at 11:47 p.m. 5 shadows in hoodies and backpacks, steam from the ferry's exhaust curling between them. Mason was the ringleader, always the one to suggest something quick, fun, and illegal, but not jail legal. Tara was the skeptic, arms crossed, chewing gum like she could grind her way through her nerves. Will carried the gear: bolt cutters, flashlights, extra batteries. Jay was filming everything for his horror channel content. Came first, safety second. And Lyle was just there because he'd been drinking, and Mason said there'd be beer afterward. The dare was simple: find the sealed hatch under the boardwalk, open it, spend 15 minutes inside, and leave with proof. Supposedly, no one had ever made it past 10 minutes without getting the shakes. They boarded the last rust bucket ferry to Gravel's Hollow. The night air tasted like rust and brine. Past the black water, the island was a jagged silhouette Ferris wheel, bent at a 45-degree angle. Roller coaster-like ribs under a torn tarp of clouds. Mason grinned as the dock's wet planks groaned under their steps. 15 minutes, he said. Easy. The boardwalk stretched ahead silent, every step hollow, like walking over a sleeping animal's chest. Somewhere under them, the hatch waited. Somewhere under them, the hollow was listening. And somewhere very close, though no one admitted hearing it yet, was a faint, steady whistle. It took them 15 minutes to find the hatch, hidden under a warped section of the boardwalk. Covered by 2 layers of flaking paint, it was no more than a rust-ringed oval of steel. Jay caught it on camera zooming in so the audience could ooh when the bolt cutters snapped the lock. When Mason pulled, the hatch didn't just open, it exhaled. A thick rush of air rolled over them, heavy with a sweet, rotten warmth, the way fruit smells when it's melting back into the dirt. The ladder led down into a narrow hallway. Paint peeled from the walls in long, curling strips. The floor was concrete, but damp enough to shine in their flashlights, and a door thick, dented metal with a painted sign above it in fading red. Pantry. Next to it was something stranger. A rusted horn mounted to the wall, connected to a maze of pipes. A handwritten label dangled from a wire. Hunger alarm. Tara laughed nervously. What's that supposed to do? Tell the food it's dinner time. Will leaned in. Or tell us we are. The deeper they went, the more the air seemed to hum, not quite a sound, more like a vibration under their skin. Mason said it was just the wind in the vents. Jay's camera picked up nothing, except the way their breathing slowed to match the rhythm. Somewhere behind the pantry door, something shifted. A scrape, like bare feet on concrete. The first whistle came as they were checking the ration lockers. It was faint, high-pitched, and almost polite, like a tea kettle somewhere far away. But it carried through the pipes, curling into the hallway, sliding into their ears. Will clutched his stomach first. Anyone else? Starving. He'd eaten an hour ago on the ferry. A greasy burger Mason had made fun of. But now he was pale and sweating. Tara popped open a can from her packed trail mix, and the smell hit them all like fresh-baked bread. In seconds, they were crouched in a circle, shoving handfuls into their mouths, chewing fast, barely tasting. Jay kept filming, mumbling, "This is gold," between bites. It didn't help. By the time the trail mix was gone, the ache was sharper, a gnawing heat twisting in their guts. Mason pulled out a protein bar, tore it in half, then ate both pieces before anyone could stop him. The wrappers littered the damp floor. "I think it's just the air," Mason said, licking chocolate from his fingers. "Something's making our blood sugar crash." No one mentioned the pantry. But later, when the others were distracted, Liao slipped to the back, crouched near the dented metal door, and shoved something into his mouth. He chewed hard, swallowed, and didn't look at what it had been. The whistle in the pipes went on, steady as breathing. And somewhere deep in a bunker, another stomach answered. By the time they realized they needed order, the bunker had already started making its own. Tara was the first to say it out loud. "We make rules, or we turn on each other." She clicked her flashlight beam between their faces, catching the red edges in Mason's eyes, the sweat on Will's neck. Rule 1, stay together. Rule 2, don't eat anything you didn't bring. Rule 3. Lights stay on at all times. They nodded, even Mason, but in the stale air, every promise felt soft. They pressed deeper, passing rusted filing cabinets and heaps of broken chairs. On one wall, Jay's light caught something tall scratches in the concrete, forming a crude calendar. Days marked with single slashes, weeks boxed in with darker lines. Every few days had one word carved beside it. Fed. Fed what? Will asked. His voice sounded too loud, bouncing down the hallway. No one answered. The second time, the bulbs buzzed and spat, shadows twitching along the walls. Jay muttered about ambience for his video, but his hands shook, holding the camera. Somewhere in the vents, the whistle swelled. Not louder or closer. They stuck to the rules. For a while. But Lyle kept glancing toward the pantry, like he'd left something unfinished. And when the third flicker came, the lights didn't come back for almost a full minute. In that dark, someone whispered, "It's hungry." The first whisper came during the blackout. It slithered through the vents, thin and wet, riding the same rhythm as the whistle. At first, Tara thought it was Mason, trying to scare them, until it said her name in her mother's voice. She froze. "Did you?" "I heard it too," Will said, his face pale in the dim beam of Jay's camera light. It sounded like me. The whispers didn't echo. They mimicked perfectly. Mason heard his own laugh. Jay heard himself muttering into the camera, though he hadn't spoken in minutes. Lyle heard chewing. When the lights buzzed back on, the vents were still humming. Dust sifted down from the grates, dancing in the air like fine ash. They moved fast after that, searching for an exit deeper in. But every hallway seemed to double back on itself, leading them past the pantry again and again. The door's dents looked fresh now, and behind its grapes, not random, measured, like something dragging a chair across the floor, pausing, then dragging again. The whistle pulsed, slow and steady, until the whispers bled back in. This time, they didn't mimic. They gave instructions. Feed it. The words slipped from the vents like warm breath. Mason laughed, but it was tight, strained. "That's not real," he said. But his hand was already on the pantry lock. They argued for 10 minutes in the damp corridor. The air felt thicker now, like breathing through cloth. Every path they'd tried had looped back toward the pantry, and every return made the dents in the metal door seem deeper. Mason wanted to find the breaker and get all the lights. Running, he swore, they'd see the way out more clearly. Tara argued they should stick together and keep moving until they hit an exit. But the whistle was louder now, threading through the vents like a wire, pulling them apart. In the end, they split. Mason and Will headed down the east corridor, looking for the breaker. Tara, Jay, and Lyle stayed near the pantry, scanning for side doors they might have missed. The moment Mason's group rounded the corner, the whispers started again. Not words this time, just the sound of chewing, slow and deliberate. Jay's camera caught faint movements in the shadows, as if something was pacing them behind the walls. Mason and Will found a side room with peeling maps on the wall floor plans of the bunker. Half the lower level was crossed out in thick black marker. In the margin, scrawled in shaky letters, "It only stops when you feed it." Back by the pantry, Tara noticed Lyle's breathing had gone ragged. His eyes darted between her and the door. "Lyle," she said, "what did you eat?" He didn't answer. From deep in the pantry came a muffled knock. 3 beats. A pause. Then 3 beats again. Like something learning how to knock back. The lock on the pantry was older than the rest of the bunker, thick steel, teeth of rust. But Mason came back with a pry bar, and with 3 hard jerks, the bolt screamed open. The smell hit first. It wasn't rot exactly, but something older, denser, like soup left too cool for decades. The air inside was warmer than the hall, almost humid. Their lights revealed shelves stacked with cans, bags, and mason jars, most gnawed open. The labels were gone. The contents shimmered faintly, as if sweating in the heat. In the center of the floor was a drain. Beside it, 3 metal bowls, each dented and stained dark. Something rattled in the ductwork above. Jay filmed everything, breathing hard. "Guys, don't you hear that?" From the vent, something shifted, scraping against the grate. It was small enough to crawl, large enough to weigh down the metal. Lyle stepped forward. I already fed it," he said quietly. Tara's head snapped toward him. "What?" "When you weren't looking," Lyle whispered, eyes glassy. "Just crumbs. But it said my name." The vent hissed, and the whistle surged. It was no longer fainted, filled the pantry, curling in their skulls. Mason grabbed a can from the shelf, hands trembling. "Maybe if we give it more, it lets us go." The bowls waited, empty. Somewhere deep in the vent, something shifted toward them. The whistle became a scream. Not loud, but piercing, like it was vibrating their bones. The bowls rattled on the floor. Dust shook loose from the ceiling vents. Tara backed toward the hallway. "We're leaving now." The door slammed before she reached it. Not by wind, not by hinges, but as if the air itself had teeth and bit it shut. In the stale heat, their hunger flared sharp again, stabbing at their insides. Mason dropped to his knees, clutching his gut sweating through his shirt. Will tried to pry the door open, but it didn't even shake. Then the whisper came clear, warm, familiar. It spoke in each of their own voices, overlapping. One stays, the rest go. Jay's flashlight shook in his hand, beam darting from face to face. It wants someone too. He didn't finish. Lyle stepped toward the drain. His eyes were hollow, his cheeks pale. "I fed it first," he murmured. "It's mine to finish." Tara grabbed his arm, but the moment her skin touched his, she felt his pulse hammering too fast, like something was drinking it from the inside. The whistle dipped low, almost content. Mason whispered, "We let him, and it lets us out." The bowls clinked softly. From the vent, something heavy began to crawl down. Lyle smiled thin. "Wrong. Go, before it changes its mind." They didn't see him kneel. They didn't look back when the sound of chewing began. The whistle cut off mid-note. The door swung open. They didn't speak on the way out. The hallways were straight now. No loops, no detours. The air was cooler, the lights steady. Only the pantry stayed behind, its door ajar, the drain hidden in shadow. The boardwalk's wooden planks groaned under their weight as they crossed back to the dock. The ferry's engine growled to life, black water stretching between them and gravels hollow. No one asked about Lyle, but halfway across, Tara noticed something. The night was silent, no wind, yet she could hear it. A faint, steady whistle. She pressed her hands over her ears, but it was inside, somewhere deep, threaded through her pulse. She caught Mason's eye. He heard it too. Will was staring at the floor. Jay's camera was still recording. On the tape, later, the whistle would be clear as breath. One stays, the rest go. They had left the island, but the hunger had not. If you liked this horror story and want more tales that are creepy, scary, and impossible to forget, make sure you subscribe. Hit the like button and ring the bell. The next time the whistle starts, you'll want